Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Rei-Lin bringing you another premium tank review. This time we're dropping it all the way down to tier 2, and this is the T92 premium tier 2 light tank. As you can see, it kind of looks a little bit like a frog, I guess. If you don't want to listen to me prattle on here about the statistics of this tank, you can click up here on the top of your screen and cut straight over to the replay and see how this thing does in battle. But otherwise, if you're interested in hearing me prattle on about the stats, we'll get right into it here. Let's take a look at the stats. Okay, should talk a little bit about what this light tank is. It is not an armored vehicle of any kind, so the armor on this tank is pretty weak overall, but it is a tier 2 light tank, so you don't have to worry so much about your armor, as most of the tier 2s, even the main battle tanks, don't really have a lot of armor to begin with. But let's talk about the gun, the one thing that does matter, the damage on this, and I am loaded with my heat shells here. The heat damage is 212 damage per shot, and the penetration is 129 millimeters. If I was to switch it up and use the armor piercing, the damage would drop down to 158 with 146 millimeters of penetration. This is a tier 2. Almost everything you shoot at is going to have no resistance to your heat ammunition, so of course I overload this thing with as much heat as I can carry, just so that all the damage that I can do is as high as possible per shot. If we look at the damage per minute, 3,037. That's not bad for a tier 2 light tank at all. That generally beats out almost any other tank besides maybe a low tier tank destroyer, or maybe even the M41. But as far as the damage per minute goes, this tank is pretty good. As I mentioned, the armor is crap. Hull is 13, 19, and 10. The turret is 32, 19, 19. So if you bounce something with this, it's going to be a miracle bounce from an auto loader. So don't count on the armor to do anything for you whatsoever. The hit points, 840. It's pretty healthy for a light tank. Let's say like the T54 here. Let's look, it's a 930, so it's got about 100 less than a main battle tank. That's not bad for a light tank. It's got a little bit of survivability. It can take a few hits before it drops dead. The max speed is 72 kilometers an hour, which is really good for a light tank. It needs its speed, no doubt about it. It is also, if you can tell from just looking at the tank, it is extremely small. It's very low profile, so a lot of people are going to have a hard time actually hitting this thing, and with the excellent top speed, it can get rolling around pretty good. Like all light tanks, it does have a 5-second speed boost that it can use on a 1-minute cooldown, which is good, but it does not get any smoke grenades of any kind. So once you get spotted, you're in trouble unless you can get out of the trouble using your speed. However, the 0 to 32 kilometers an hour is a little bit slow for a light tank, 5.3 seconds. It's not bad, but it is only tier 2, and most of the other tanks don't really have much on the way of acceleration. The camouflage, 0.29, very, very good camouflage. You're actually approaching a lot of AFVs at this point. As long as you sit still and don't fire, your camouflage is going to stay intact no matter what terrain you're on, and it's going to be real hard for enemies, especially at tier 2 or tier 1, to actually spot you. But you'll be spotting them because your view range is 425 meters. That is really good. That's tier 3, tier 4 levels of view range. So keep that in mind. This thing is a pretty good scout. But when we talk about the gun here, the cannon depression is only 3.5 degrees. You're going to have a lot of trouble with 3.5 degrees. However, over the back of the tank, you actually get 6 degrees of gun depression. So if you want to play this kind of slightly different way by putting your gun over the back end of the tank while you face your hull in the opposite direction, so if somebody does spot you, you can hightail it out of there with your decent top speed and acceleration. That might be a better way to play it, because 3.5 degrees is really, really terrible for gun depression. The turret traverse isn't that fast, but it's not that slow. It's sort of in the middle, 34.5 degrees per second. The reload time, 4.2 seconds. That's not too bad. I mean, it is pretty quick. It has a decent damage per minute, and that's helped a lot by how fast it does reload. The accuracy is really good at 0.10, and with your crew, you can get both of those, the reload time and your accuracy, down a little bit better even than that. My crew on this is only level 2. I don't have both of my skills on this. That just shows you that I don't really play the low tiers very much. But if they were at level 5, for example, I'm sure the reload time would be 4 seconds or less, and the accuracy would probably be maybe 0.09, 0.08, which would be extremely good. The aim time is also pretty quick, just over 2 seconds. And again, with the crew getting up to level 5, that will drop even lower, so it'll probably be at least 2, if not 1.9 something seconds for targeting. So it can acquire targets, it can stick with them because of the decent turret traverse, as most of the low-tiered light tanks and tanks in general, minus the wheeled tanks, the hull traverse on this is not the best. It's pretty slow. I'm guessing anywhere between 24 and 28 degrees per second. So even though the top speed is good, a lot like the VFM Mark V, you can really have trouble once you reach your top speed, especially if you're using your speed boost, to actually turn and miss obstacles like rocks or make last-minute jukes of your enemy while you're charging to get to their flanks, which you're going to want to do pretty much all the time in these light tanks. But because this thing does have really high vision range and really high camouflage value, you don't really have to engage any targets dead on. You can be very, very sneaky, get around to the sides, get around to the rear of a lot of tanks. Talk real quick about the cost. What's this going to run you? 650 gold. If we look at the purchase gold, the lowest you can buy is 1,000 gold for $5. Is it worth it? To be honest, I don't particularly like this tank, and there's several reasons for that. The low tiers go by so quickly that I don't see much need to have a premium tank at a low tier. Maybe if a bunch of your buddies decide to start playing and you're so high tiered and you just wanted to get a little bit more out of it, you can deck this out. The problem with starting off with these low tiers is that even if you buy this, you're not going to have a trained crew. As you can see, my crew is only level 2. Trained commanders, you may not have the money to use the premium consumables or consumables at all, and you're not going to have access to high level retrofits, which tend to make these lower tier tanks very, very deadly. If you watched my review on the AMX 10P Pack 90, you'll see just how good that tank can be once you've decked it out with high level retrofits. This, in fact, gets 2 retrofit slots, which is usually a lot more, like, say, the M41 only gets 1. So it gets 2 retrofit slots, but only one is a universal, the other is for mobility. And keep in mind, with that in there, my acceleration is affected. But as far as using this all the time, I would say by the time you've played maybe 10 games in this, you're already going to be halfway, if not past tier 3, especially with all the events going on right now. So, is it worth it? For a tank collector, yes. If you really need to have a premium tank, this would be perfectly fine. I noticed that you cannot battle harden, it seems, anything under tier 3. Like my Walker Bulldog here, I cannot battle harden this tank whatsoever, which means that if you want the premium bonuses at low tiers, this is probably the only tank you're going to want to buy, because it is the lowest tiered premium tank you can get. But just for comparison, because I like the M41 so well, real quick, you can see that if you want a tier 2, normal tier 2, that almost in every single way, the M41 is better than the T92 in damage, in penetration, in damage per minute, in health, even in the armor. It's got the same maximum speed, but it gets to 32 kilometers an hour even faster. It's got slightly worse camouflage, same view range, and way more gun depression, turret traverse. It's got a slightly longer reload, slightly worse on the accuracy, but even better aiming time. So for a tier 2, the M41 I think is better because you don't have to spend any gold whatsoever to get it. However, like I said, if you really, really like to have all the light tanks and you got some people that you enjoy playing low tiers with, there's nothing really particularly wrong with the T92. It's a nice little tiny tank. It does reload fast. It has a high DPM, especially for tier 2, and its heat rounds just wreck things very, very quickly, especially if no one is shooting at you, because you're sitting kind of back away from the main pushes and battles with your awesome camouflage and your very good view range. So there's nothing inherently wrong with the tank. It's just I don't think that it's necessarily worth having at the low tiers. That being said, quickly go over the commanders. Definitely Maximilian for me. I would go with Sabrina if you don't have Maximilian. She's a very good light tank commander. Your crew, off-road driving on all of your tanks. This thing, it's got a slow acceleration, but this will help by 10% off-road driving. Once I have the second skill, I would probably take Spin to Win, because as I mentioned, the whole traverse speed is kind of slow. Might as well make it a little bit quicker. Quick draw, aim speed improved by 10%. The aim speed is really good in this, but there's no reason you can't make it a little bit better. I wouldn't see why you wouldn't want to have it be much better. You probably want to take shoot from the hip. That's the minimum accuracy, so that's when your aim circle is at its biggest. Since you are a light tank, your accuracy is already really good. There's not much of a reason to take marksman, because you're going to be able to line up all your shots from a good distance, and you have the accuracy to hit pretty much anything you're shooting at. But shoot from the hip will help when you do have to take shots on the move and you're just trying to get to cover. The accuracy plus shoot from the hip will serve you pretty well, I think. Rapid fire, reload time reduced by 5%. Everyone likes to shoot things faster. There's no reason that you shouldn't increase your DPM with rapid fire. After that, probably preparation would be my second skill choice there. The ammo swap speed. There are a few tanks, since this is a tier 2, you can beat up to tier 4 tanks, like say a T64. You're probably not going to go through it with your heat rounds, but you'll definitely be able to go through the sides and rear with your armor piercing. So you might need, it just helps when you have to swap ammunition types. That's what I would suggest going with. I never take high explosive. I just don't see the point in PvE. If you PvP a lot more, you might consider this as just an emergency decapping tool. This is tier 2, and the majority of the PvE matches in tier 2 is a lot of tier 1 and tier 2, maybe a tier 3 tank every once in a while. Your heat has enough pen to punch right through it, and it does very good damage anyway, so I load up with more heat. That's his personal preference. I only use the armor piercing if I'm running up against tier 3s or 4s, and usually just main battle tanks. Consumable wise, as I mentioned in previous videos, I take the premium versions of the repair kit and the first aid kit, which is spare parts, to increase my repair speed of all of my modules by 10%. The energy drink to give all of my crew attributes a 5% boost for one battle, and the medical kit, which increases my crew's resilience by 15%, making it very, very difficult for enemy tanks to actually kill any of my crew. Very useful. You can drop them, as I said, for the repair kit or the first aid kit. You can also drop the energy drink for the protein bar for a slightly smaller boost, a half the boost, 2.5%. Or for the fire extinguishers, I've never been set on fire in most of my tanks, and never been set on fire in this tank in particular. So that's your best judgment. That's what I go for. If you're going to run a lot of PvE though, low tier field maintenance kit is a must. It restores 20% of your vehicle's health and gives you all of your ammunition back. You can still get into some maps that are very long, Ghost Hunter or Rolling Thunder, and this is just one way. This thing does fire extremely quickly, and it's not uncommon for me to end a match with nothing left but maybe 8 to 10 armor piercing shells left. So believe it or not, you may end up using this more than you think you will. And at only 4,000 credits, if you have to use it, it's very, very nice to have the health and the ammunition reload. Retrofits, my favorite part. Okay, I went down the Russian T line of tanks, and that gives me access to the Experimental Propellant Mark 3, so it can increase the damage on my shots by 7.5%. I suggest going down the Russian line of tanks just because this is a must-have, in my opinion, for almost any tank that has a retrofit slot that is firepower or a universal slot. There's no reason not to make your shots hit harder. And Air Induction Pre-Cleaner Mark II increases the acceleration, makes it even better than what it already is. It's a little bit slow, but this improves it by a little over 2%, and again, increase the hull traverse speed by 12.5%. That is really, really nice. As I said, the hull traverse speed on this is a little bit slow. This is going to help boost it that much more. You can take other retrofits. Since this is a universal slot, you can put anything in there that you want. It's all down to your own personal preference. If you want to see how well it does in actual gameplay, stick around. I'll see you on the battlefield. And here we are on the Ricochet map. This is shortly after patch 0.12 had came out, and this is my first game on this map after they had made the changes to the spawns. So you get to see me kind of learning as I go on where everything is gone as far as the changes made. I did notice, however, that one of the changes that they did make is that the secondary objective now no longer have an actual time limit to get them, which is one of the things that makes this map actually really hard, or it did make this map really hard, is they would have one over there at C8, an objective that was really hard to get to because you had to fight your way through a bunch of tanks to get over there. Anyway, I spotted a PT-76. He doesn't stand much of a chance there. So, take him out pretty quick. It's a T-54. As you can see, the gun depression, I have to kind of expose myself pretty much a lot. Even see, like right there, I can't even shoot at this M41 anymore. Not just because he went behind the rock, but because I couldn't get the gun down far enough to actually shoot him. So, I don't really like the idea of leaving him to shoot everyone in the ass end. I tried to fire in the move there. Didn't work out so well that time. And by this point, he knows I'm there because he spots me. And usually when a bot spots you and you're close to him, they're readying up to take pot shots. Something takes a pot shot at me, and looks like it was another M41 hanging out back there. I do have some sniper shots, and you can see with the accuracy I can actually just hit him on the top of the tank, take him out. It's like another PT-76. Because I'm spotted, he's taking a shot at me. I'm firing heat, so I hit the fence there, and the heat just doesn't like to go through chain link fences or bushes or just anything that gets between you and the target. Can't quite see where he's actually sitting. This one actually is taking a bit of the brunt on his turret, which has a little bit of armor for the tier, but not enough, so I take him out. I was actually kind of surprised that the M41 was able to spot me, but he does have the same view range as I do, and we kind of spotted each other. Now, usually the tanks don't spawn down this road. They tended to spawn on the B line or the C line and kind of work their way up. But I come over here and immediately stuff starts to spawn where I'm not used to them spawning, and I kind of freaked out a little because this is a light tank. I'm not going to be bouncing anything, but I'm far enough back that by the time I got spotted, the M41 wasn't looking at me for 2 of the 3 shots. I kind of had to fire sort of blind there. I didn't actually see him. But the other M41 that's backing down here did see me, and he's drawing a bead on me. I think he does get a shot. Yeah, I take a hit there from the M41. And kind of back off. Let my team, they're kind of all going into the city, which is odd because I'm used to teams going up or around the bend there on the road that takes them up and over into this section. So I'm rushing to kind of catch up. I know that there's a lot of times that there are spawns around these tanks. So I'm just rushing up here because usually they would spawn behind this tank that I'm passing right now, and there are a couple things that did spawn over there. But lo and behold, as I make my way, something spawns out there, and I end up running into the map border as I try to bring it to a halt. And as you can see, it's just another M41. They must have had them on sale. Another tank spawns, and you can see the hull traverse and the turret traverse. I'm just like, slowly getting it over there. But the M41 is low tier, just like I am, so we're just kind of not doing much damage. My gun depression prevents me from getting a beat on him unless I pretty much just drive over the hill in front of me and just try to get my gun down so I can actually shoot him. Now this time we got a Patton, and he's got some decent turret armor for his tier, main battle tank, and I wasn't trying to shoot him there, but my gun depression failed me, and I ended up raising the gun up too much, so it went right into the strongest part of his turret, right on the gun mantlet. But I know he's not going to be able to reload before I do, so I just shoved one right into his booty there to take him out. Notice there's another PT-76 over here. I thought maybe I can just get over this hill a little bit and snipe him, but the gun depression won't let me until I'm all the way over here and exposed. I'm actually lucky that that shot hit him on the move. I thought maybe I could outrun his turret traverse, but it seems that the PT-76's turret traverse is very good, and so I took another hit there. I'm down to 600 health, but the game is basically won. There's only one tank, it looks like, that's left, and we're going to cap out here very shortly. You can see the top speed's not bad. I'm already up to 60 kilometers, but it takes a little bit of time to get there, even with the speed boost, which it almost doesn't even seem to work with this tank. I mean, it does help, but it's not like the higher tier vehicles. When you use your speed boost, you get a speed boost, and you're hauling ass. This just doesn't seem to have the ground resistance. It seems like there's a lot of ground resistance on this tank, so the acceleration is just really bad, and but that was kind of a quick and dirty match. We just blew through that pretty good. Everyone kind of stayed safe, didn't take any chances. But at Tier 2, you can't play anything but an easy match. So that's the other reason why it's not that exciting. And at the low tiers, you're on easy. And as you see, we just obliterated that enemy team. And even though it's bots, there was just absolutely no challenge whatsoever. 3,800 experience, some decent credits. It's not a bad tank. It really isn't. The problem, like I said, is that it's a low tier. By the time that you could buy this and get 4 or 5 games in, you're already at Tier 3 or Tier 4. But if you're the kind of person that wants to own all the light tanks, wants to own all the premium tanks, sure, go ahead and spend the money, since you can get it right there inside the game. You don't have to buy it on a special package or anything like that. It might be worth it to you. If you really enjoy the light tanks, if you got some friends that are playing low tiers a lot, and you just would rather not keep the T-54 or any kind of other, the M41 or something like that in your garage, and you just want a low tier to play when you play low tiers, sure, go ahead. And that is pretty much the end of this video, folks. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got some information out of it to help you decide whether or not you want to spend some money on this tank. If you found the video helpful, please press that like button down below. It really helps the channel out. And if you haven't had a chance to subscribe, you can click down on the bottom of your screen right now, and that'll take you to where you can subscribe to me and get any updates for videos and future videos that I put out on Armored Warfare or on other games that I'm putting out there lately. Some MMOs going on like Blade and Soul, and in the future probably some Black Desert Online. And that is pretty much all I have for you on this video. I hope you enjoyed it, guys. Take care, and I'll talk to you next time.